Enrique to head the project for writing the manual, and then it went to hell after that. I had to do 27 rewrites, he knows what, but that's a good thing. We fell in love with that machine, and we hope with the second iteration of it, you're gonna enjoy it even more. Bring it back the old days in a good way. But that's it from me. Yeah, Mike.
I'm Mike Cadwallader, and I guess you could call me the project manager for the next. Even though I work in IT and I don't really get on with project managers. Enrique got in touch with me in September 2017 and said, would you mind spending an hour a day just helping me out on the next? Back then he believed it was a kind of a weekend job, that he could dedicate weekends to working on the next, and that proved to be complete bollocks. So thousands of hours later, 5 years later, I'm still here. Good.
I'm Matt Davis. I got dragged in when I started writing an emulator for the Next. I didn't get too far with that because the Next got too complicated for my ability. But I started writing tools. I wanted the vision that I wanted everyone to write programs on the Next, using only the Next, without a PC. So I started writing an editor assembler called Odin. I did a document system called NextGuy, which is now integrated in the operating system. And I also ported Lords of Midnight, because it's my favourite game, and I wanted to see a better looking version on the Next. And fortunately for me, Simon Butler was able to do the graphics for me, and I think he did okay.
It's lovely. It's your turn.
Come on, Lyndon.
Go. It's working.
Yeah, you've got to speak.
Yeah, I'm Lyndon J. Sharp. Back in the day, in the 80s, I wrote a couple of half reasonable, decent Spectrum games, which people seem to remember, and I don't know why. And now, when I saw the Next start coming through the sort of like the news and the internet channels, I thought, I quite fancy go on that. See if I can rekindle some of the old sort of Spectrum spirit. And I did the Poggy demo, and now I'm doing Fisk. And a whole other raft of my games and other games.
A little higher.
As you can imagine, I don't like public speaking.
Hiding behind Matt and a picture as well.
Yeah, I'm just missing the shades, really.
Why did you say so? What happened with me?
Oh dear, not mine, you know.
Right, folks. Introductions made. Let's jump into a very, very soft question before we dive into the experience of developing on the Next. When we put the computer together, one of the first things we wanted to do was to emulate the experience we all got when we lay our hands on the first Spectrum. Right? Open the box, see a machine there that was beautifully designed that we could plug and play. Right? If we had a cassette tape, of course. But anyway, so it's something that was fully formed. You as developers, right, also had the first time experience with the Speccy, right? When you first started coding something on it, when you first started putting something together, creating.
Yep.
Because that's what you do, you're creators. How does that compare with the first experience creating on the Next? Did we capture some of that old feelings? Or is it something completely new, or was more sterile, or too refined to evoke the same kind of visceral reactions?
2 words.
Hell yes. I love programming that machine. It brought back all the good memories. I got some new fun toys to play with extra hardware, sprites and stuff like that. And I love the machine. I write video games for a living, and I started to really hate PCs and consoles now, and I just want to go back home and just work on a simple 8-bit machine. I love it.
It's your turn.
Well, I sort of covered it in my introduction, really, that experience of a limited environment, to be able to, you know, I work in an industry that's got incredibly complex systems, and Unfortunately, I'm a program and project manager, but those sort of things, they're just hard work, and it's a lot of APIs and development levels and sign off and testing, all the things we need to do for modern software. That really there wasn't that when we first took the Spectrum on board. We just took it out. We had no idea what we could do with this machine, no idea whatsoever, and you just had to keep plugging away and playing, and that, it gave me exactly the same experience, that there was all these possibilities again that I knew I would be able to get my mind around, because there was still a physical limit somewhere within it. I think that's the point, is that it still has a limit, although people, some really clever people, a lot cleverer than me, well definitely, they're pushing some of the limits on our machine now, and you're just saying, wow, you never thought they could do that. And it's still effectively the 8-bit computer that we all grew up and loved, you know, and people are doing amazing things with it. And that would have happened and kept going. It just proves that there was a lot of untapped potential, you know, that really everyone got obsessed with the newer machines. And let's face it, there were some clever things that came later, and we've used some of them in the next as the ideas. And it's just a rounded experience, but it can do everything. That's why I like it. It can just do everything you need in one little machine now. You don't have to have all these boxes of great big machines I got. It's that same experience with all of those machines in one little box. And that's how I do it. I love the simplicity, like Matt says. You write a bit of code, straight away on the machine, get to play with it and test it.
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo Tim's thoughts in that. The developing on the next is just, it's almost therapeutic. It's you spend all day doing boring work at your normal job, and you look forward to getting home and actually, you know, sitting down and writing some assembler. It's quite therapeutic and relaxing. And another part of it is that it was like the unexplored, like the Wild West. You didn't know what was possible yet. You had all these kind of hardware features, and you wanted to see how far you could push it, what you could develop, what you could bring to the table, and you know, no one had really written anything for it yet. So yeah, it's really enjoyable. If you got tempted to start programming, I definitely recommend, you know, jumping into the next development. It's really good fun.
I think really though, Phoebus has got to take some ownership of this.
I got to take the ownership, because when I started doing the manual, we started with the concept of recreating the original. And the original was a great experience for any kid that just got this for Christmas. But once I started working on it, I realized that there was so much more that we could do with it. And I had a wonderful team behind me, and lots of positive feedback from many, many people on the internet, and, you know, friends that weren't friends but became friends along the way. What we wanted to do as a team for Manual, and personally, was to improve the experience of knowing you can actually do something without having to rely on anything else. The fact that you can do, the fact that I could convince my teenage son to write a sprite without any knowledge of coding, and he's half the way across the world in America, and he did that without any help from me or any input. That actually meant that you could take this original idea of learning and improving your skills and becoming a better person in a way. And let's not forget that many of the modern industry, not only in the UK but in Europe and elsewhere, got their start from a Spectrum, because it was so easy to use, and it was so intuitive, and it was so helpful to have all this documentation that taught you ways to go about things. It didn't get you there all the way, but it did open the door. So we wanted to open the door even more and go to that direction. I hope we did it, and I hope that the next version of the manual, which unfortunately Gary has made my job extremely difficult, because he added, I don't know, about 500 features. Yeah, and I have to fit this in a given space. Thank you. Well, I need a couple boxes for the manual, actually. It'll be like
How many
Novell.
pages you have to cut off from the manual?
The first version I had to cut off 250 pages. There's 250 written pages that actually say something. It's not just babbling about. It's not fluff. It had examples, programming directions for the stuff that were, you know, interesting to do. like just superimpose layers of graphics. And not just move around the sprite, but actually doing something, do collision and stuff like that, we had to get rid of. Because there was no space. Now hopefully I'll find a little room, because he promised that there is a few millimeters left. Maybe I'll make it like cigarette paper thin, I'm sorry. Okay? And you all people, you're to blame. Because you want a ring binder. You want to open it flat. Give me more room. It's your fault. Now, up to you. There you go.
Not bitter at all.
I'm not bitter.
I guess we're still on the question of
Yes?
yeah, okay. So very brief from me. But I think I've kind of rejected the current world that we live in. The computer hardware that exists in that world. And I have a very powerful PC, I have an Oculus Rift headset, but it just doesn't engage me anymore. It just doesn't give me that special feeling anymore. So the Next is something that I think I can get my head around better. And it's a lot of remembering how things were back in the day, rediscovering the old things as well as the new things that people are creating. And the only thing I use technology for now really is a phone. I'm just not really into games anymore or these modern 100 frame a second Call of Duty type stuff. I'd much rather play around on the Next. So that's kind of how it's changed for me. As far as the manual's concerned, Phoebus, so we have to define the box months and months in advance so that we can get all the boxes made. So I have to go to Phoebus, and for Kickstarter 1, it was pretty much hassling him every day to say, what size does the manual need to be?
Don't lie to people.
What kind of paperweight you're going to be using? How many pages? Because I had to create a void in the box to fit the manual, so there wasn't really much room. And if you suddenly find you're going over that and the manual doesn't fit in the box, then you're pretty much up the creek. So you have to kind of err on the side of caution. For the Kickstarter 2 boxes, though, they are going to be changing. It's a different design. Different colour, so the blue is going to be replaced with something else. The boxes are going to be slightly thinner, and I believe there's slightly more depth for the manual as well.
So he says. So he says.
But again, Phoebus can't tell me how many pages there are going to be.
Oh, they're not going to tell you.
Well,
Tell that jerk to stop adding things.
get it finished already.
I can't.
Well, with Kickstarter 1, because of the delays on the case and the keyboard, the boxes were made over a year in advance, just sitting around in a warehouse, and that obviously costs a lot of money. The manual probably wasn't finished till about 2 or 3 days before the whole thing was shipping. So you just don't have time to wait for things like that, to be able to adjust your parameters. You just have to kind of stick in the ground and go with it. And a Phoebus has to conform to that, really. So, yeah. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent there onto the manual, so who wants it next?
The man is important.
So, are you okay? The question is around, do you get that warm, fuzzy feeling on the Next that you did?
I do, yes. I do get the warm, fuzzy feeling because I went from the Spectrum to the Mega Drive to the PS1 to the PS2, and now I work on the PC exclusively JavaScript, writing camera software. So to actually just be able to brush that aside and do something completely different, and to get that sort of feeling when back in the day when I started writing Spectrum games, they were rubbish. Yeah, but we pumped them out to people like Elite Systems and Juicy Consultants and get the usual rejection letters saying this is just rubbish. You know, it's only when I got a job working at Codemasters that really sort of escalated for me, doing Quick Snacks and Captain Dynamo and things like that. Games people come and say, oh yeah, I really like that, and that makes it worthwhile. When you get that recognition, when people say, yeah, I played that, I really liked it, and then you say, yeah, we're going to be doing it on the next. So hopefully, watch this space.
Fair enough. Something that Tim alluded, or Phoebus alluded to, was that feedback from the community and requests from developers and people who were following the progress of the Kickstarter as it was being created, right, was implemented back and kept changing the specs and the features of the machine. It's almost like building a plane as it's flying, right? So a lot of that feedback made into features, and we now use, like the Spectrum Basic is quite powerful. I would say it's probably one of the most powerful basic versions in any 8-bit machine, or maybe even 16. Let's make a claim like that. Yeah, it is.
I won't say that. Because Simon's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Where's he at? In the back there?
He's glowering.
Okay.
It was a 16-bit processor and a QL. They just had 8-bit bus, so it doesn't count.
It's a
What am I saying?
32-bit.
2-bit.
It's a 32-bit processor. Please.
But this is very different today. Developing games or creating something, right? The community interfaces with you when they make their voice heard, and sometimes that's very cool. Sometimes that is annoying as hell. For developers that came back from the 80s, where the bedroom coder was a definition of how you did things. You did things in isolation. Sometimes you get feedback from a publisher, or sometimes you get feedback from a peer if you happen to work with somebody else, which was fairly rare as well, especially in the early days. So how does it contrast today? Do you prefer work in isolation and just slapping the world in the face with something you created? Or you prefer that people, for better or worse, keep telling you what you should be doing?
Part of it is nice to get the feedback, because you can create something better and inscrutable. When you start, they say, "Well, this is great, but this is not exactly right." Say, for example, the shadows don't work right on Fist. Yes, we know. Thank you. But it's a good thing. Somebody told us. One of the things that I did starting let me take it back a little bit. When we got the first Kickstarter, if you remember, we got boards out. So one of the things I did was actually support all the early birds that got the boards, the developer boards as we call them. And in that process, we realized, and we talked with Enrique, we talked with Mike and everybody else, that we needed some help in the form of feedback that gave us ideas we didn't have yet in our heads. That made the machine better, and that makes our work better too. Everything we do is guided and made by you. It's a collaborative process. Sometimes it's very annoying, I have to admit. Nobody likes to be told that your work is shit. Sorry. But it happens, and it's a good thing to happen, because we can correct it. And if you course correct and you listen to what the community has to say, then I think everybody is to benefit from it in the final analysis. So, part of that experience was that as well. And we made the machine better, I think. Tim?
I forgot what the question was now.
Am I pretty?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that the answer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's always yes.
No, I know what you mean. I would much prefer to have some feedback, because the first code I write is always rubbish. The other thing is, you actually want people to use what you've done, because that's what you're doing it for. As much as your own enjoyment doing it, it's nice to see other people getting the benefit from it, but it might not be what they want. Now, I'm looking out across here, and there's a lot of faces here I know have written some games and software on the Next that is better than I've written, and it's really good. And some people here have talked to me about how does something work, and I've said, "I'll help you." And that community, that is something we didn't have back in the day. But it is made it 10 times better. We would go to a show like this probably 2 or 3 times a year as a producer and developer, and you'd have hundreds of people come and talk, and they would offer this solution. But it was such a slow pipeline to get feedback, like you said. Occasionally we'd have people knock on the door as well and say, "Hi, you've come to see your company." And it was very rare, and an odd magazine might give you a bit of a review weeks later or months later sometimes. So to actually have that immediate feedback is really great. I think it's what it's about, isn't it? It's all of us enjoying in developing for that machine. And some of the stuff, I mean, I can see Adrian sitting in the corner there. He's been through one of his Dragon games. He brought you onto the Dragon, snuck it next into the Dragon show, and that's what it is. It's Gary has created a basic that allows you to write games as good as we could back in the day with some serious assembly language, and was a real struggle. And that cost of entry is now, I think, where the benefit comes. And by everyone supporting each other, there's loads of you supporting each other. That's what makes me great. I think I don't have to do much on the Next anymore because it's starting to do itself. It's becoming, you know, it's self-sustaining. It's your product, you know, and you're building it out now. And all we can do is tweak the little bits we can control. Yeah, I think that's fair.